Jugando al Dandy Forest.
The issue ends up being you can go back up,
Por
party.
otra vez. Oh my god, ese es tremendo rad. Voy a unir ese juego. ¿Qué? Oh, no, no me voy a meter, voy a unir este.
Straight through the ear to the other side. I do joke sometimes with patients when I look at one ear, I'm like, oh, I can see through the other side. But you can't. You can't. You're seeing the tympanic membrane and you stop, you can see like a shadow a little bit. Heck, I bet nobody has done this with Happy Tree Friends Volcano. But here we are, every episode of Happy Tree Friends ranked. Just so you all know, I'm a huge fan of ranking videos. Mostly the LS Spark videos, where he ranks all the Simpsons and Family Guy episodes. Some of my most favorite shows out there. It would be so easy for me to tackle these shows.
It all began 8 years ago. I found all these Geometry Dash clones
Distrae.
on the Play Store, and 11-year-old
Se
me
terminó
decided
una
that
máquina de
good
sacar
content like 12
ascensor.
subscribers. The video did absurdly well, and I would go on to make a total of 6 parts. And I always found this series cool, because as my channel evolved, so did these videos. The first 3 parts are made in Windows Movie Maker with text edited over. By part 4, I was at 20,000 subscribers, using a proper video editor, 5 times text editing using the Word Orange Room. And at part 6, when I had 60,000 subscribers, I was using my voice to simulate games in real time. That brings us to today. The last GD Copies video was almost 5 years ago, and I'm now sitting at 500,000 subscribers. It's been a crazy journey, and I really can't thank you all enough for showing interest in the stuff I do. It's gone from Windows Movie Maker to early icon PNGs to showing my face to whatever I am now, and things are only getting better. Not to mention I even launched a plushie, which, as of this video going up, is still... You know what the top Google search result for Geometry Dash is? Maybe it's the Steam page. Wow, this video turned out great! An exposal of a fake Geometry Dash website and how it's stealing popular Scratch projects. It's a good thing I never have to think about this ever again.
Espérate. No se va a morir nuestro bebé.
Craig, is that you? No one's heard from you in weeks. Ever since you started rambling about that fake Geometry Dash. What do you know? Do you have any idea what I've been through? One games.
Esto es piso 1.
Egg Dash. What are you talking about? You're not making any sense. Oh, trust me, I am. There is so much to uncover. Come here. I'll tell you everything. And I mean everything.
So, a while back I made a video where I investigated those fake Geometry Dash websites you might have seen. Long story short, they take advantage of the fact that Geometry Dash is a game you have to install through the App Store or Steam or whatever. However, there's a surprisingly large demographic, mostly children, that think that you can just search the game up on Google and immediately start playing, no download required. Alternatively, maybe they just have a device like a Chromebook where they can't install Geometry Dash. So what these sites do is simple. They call themselves Geometry Dash.
Oh my god, así como...
And then when
Como
someone
te digo.
clicks on it, they have a Geometry Dash to play. Usually with a ton of ads where all the money goes to the website and none goes to RobTop, the developer of the game. In other words, it's a scam and you shouldn't fall for it. Now, obviously, you can't just put actual Geometry Dash on a website. Porting this game to a web browser would probably require remaking it from the ground up. Fortunately, some people have actually done this. The majority of these websites would present you with Geometry Dash V1.5, a remake of the game made in the building block programming language Scratch by the legend himself, Griffpatch. But although it's impressive for Scratch standards, you can't really pass this off as the real thing. But to the people foolish enough to think that they're playing real Geometry Dash on a website, this was enough. Scratch Geometry Dash actually came with a level editor, so it would go on to develop a bit of a community. People would remix it and build their own levels, and others would go on to add new objects and mechanics. One Scratcher in particular, iPhone AT&T Time Warner Cable 115, made it their mission to remake as many real GD levels in Scratch as possible, from level easy to change of scene to everything in between them. No lie, there's literally thousands. Are they good? Not really. In fact, most of them are playable. But I see it as more of an art form. It's super respectable in my eyes, and it's done as a passion project. But the fake Geometry Dash websites quickly took notice, and this was a gold mine to them. Now they could clickbait hundreds of real GD levels, serve up the Scratch versions, which they stole, and profit from all the ads around it. They also have these really funny AI-generated descriptions like, Geometry Dash I Spy with my little eye, you will overcome countless challenging challenges.
Challenging. Oh my god. They're gonna put some videos from the guys. Oh my god. Oh yeah, thanks for birthday. Oh god, thanks for birthday.
But that's to be expected. The most notable of these websites is geometry-io, which has hundreds, maybe thousands.
A ver qué sale. Algo bueno, algo bueno, algo bueno, algo bueno. Por favor, dame Grisen. Bueno, bien, Grisen. Bien, Grisen.
¿Todo bien? ¿Con
Sí.
mucha vainillita?
Sí. Caminando por los sitios. ¿Qué estás haciendo? Ah.
Also credited the creator of the Scratch project. But if you go to the website now, you'll notice two things. Firstly, that disclaimer has been banished to a link all the way at the bottom of the page. And secondly, they're not running the Scratch version anymore. You see, as impressive as it is, Scratch Geometry Dash obviously doesn't play that well, and it's just a stolen project made by someone else. What these websites needed was a game that actually looked and played exactly like real Geometry Dash. A recreation of the game so impressive that you could barely tell it apart from the real thing. And above all else, a game that they could have full control over the development of. This video isn't about the existence of these fake Geometry Dash websites or the Scratch games that they steal, nor is it about all those other weird ripoffs that they also host. This video is about one single Geometry Dash clone that I've spent months of my life investigating. A game with the ambitious goal of becoming a perfect copy of Geometry Dash. A game that would undergo dozens of strange updates and break out into multiple spin-off games. A game that would build their own RobTop levels, and a game that would steal levels that never existed to begin with. But most importantly, a game that would absolutely break me as a human being. This is the story of Geometry Light.
Hola, Tisha. Alguien se murió, ¿no? Stopwatch, chocolate.
Other GD
Era la
copies
verga se murió.
highlight for context. And the first one actually shows up in my last fake GD video at 6 minutes and 25 seconds. Geometry Dash Unblocked, which is your more traditional Geometry Dash copy and not something made on Scratch. The levels are actually recreations of the Geometry Dash ones, like Association, Formation, Club Step with the monsters and everything. This is GeoJump, a pretty terrible copy of Geometry Dash that's been around for years. Despite the weird level names like they're just really sad recreations of GD levels.
Puede comentar máquina, ¿dónde nos sudo? Puede que se abra la puerta.
To Electrodynamics, Planet. But as you can see, it looks and plays terribly.
¿Cómo? Dice que necesita 160. Oh my god. La música del video.
It turns out that this game exclusively uses old tracks by F777, who you might know is the creator of Deadlocked, Sonic Blaster, and many other gangers. I asked him if he knew about this, and sure enough, they just grabbed these songs without permission. Funny enough, this game actually has a second version. It has a proper menu and uses the actual Geometry Dash songs, but they obviously don't sync. There's also a bunch of funky icons to pick from, as well as a shuffle button, which I made, by the way, for my Icon Kit website. Then that game got a second version, adding all the levels up to Finger Dash. And this time they don't have weird names, but that doesn't stop them from being awful. Then they made GeoJump World, which is the 10 GD World levels, followed by the challenge as an 11th. Once again, not good. I would even argue that the Scratch games play better than this. I thought it ended there, but then someone on Twitter sent me a game about a heroic ball exploring several mysterious islands. It's just the exact same game rotated 10 degrees! Aside from making the ball, they also cleaned up the menu and improved the physics a bit, but there's still nothing going.
Oh my god.
The other game I needed to cover is what I call GD Unity, because it's a really faithful recreation of Geometry Dash made in the Unity game engine.
Alguien dijo Honduras. No sé quién me dijo la atención.
Although this game
Wait,
looks
who-
really
who-
impressive,
who-
it has its flaws. They tried to recreate all the menus, but the buttons do nothing and there's typos everywhere. My favorites are Progress Bar and the Quiche Checkpoint button.
Quiche.
You can choose any icon from Geometry Dash, but death effects don't work and you're always forced to use the fire trail. The achievements menu is weird, and as it turns out, all the textures there come from the old achievement page on my website GD Browser. Finally, and most importantly, the music doesn't sync and the physics suck. The ship gravity is brutal. The
Oh,
cube
that's it,
above
that's
its head,
it.
The UFOs. What? And it gets significantly worse. Much like GeoJump, this game goes up to electrodynamics, but all signs point to being a completely different project by a different developer entirely. I actually got a hold of the developer at one point, but he didn't provide much useful information, and now he's completely ghosting me. You can't deny that this game lays a pretty good foundation, so it ended up branching out into a lot of
Azul.
spin-offs, like Meltdown, which turned out
Dormite.
decent, but obviously has its flaws. Sub-Zero only has press start, and it's actually some weird extended version of the level. The ending is weirdly difficult. And it uses Geometrical Dominator, who had one job. There's also a Bloodbath spin-off for some reason, but this transition is impossible because every portal resets you to normal gravity. But I data mined the game, and yes, it is the entire level. It's faithful, but there's definitely some mistakes, like using the X object here, leaving out some creator logos, and filling in all the blank spaces with this object for some reason. Geometry Dash Scratch is probably the weirdest of the bunch, because it's the exact same as Meltdown, but they just
Oh.
changed the logo.
Hola,
I really
Russell.
could not explain the logic behind this one.
¿Vas a
Finally,
hacer algo?
Geometry Dash Breeze, which is
Bueno,
actually a
bueno,
fan
bueno.
game by the creator Andrexel. He makes really good
Oh,
Rob
¿qué se
style
murió?
levels, and you can play them all from his
Bueno, ya-
account.
ya terminé
My
el
favorite
video.
is Into the Zone. It plays so nicely. But yeah, for some reason they made the first 3 levels of Breeze. I don't know if that's an honor or kind of concerning. Once again, it's not great, and the spider is pretty silly. This game will show up again later, but for now, we can finally head back to geometrydash.io, which is where this story really begins. And let me just explain how this video is gonna work. First, we're gonna go over the history of this website, everything they've done since my last video, as well as all the details of that Geometry Light game I keep hinting about. Then we'll get into how the website starts to take a weird turn, and finally, I'm gonna completely tear it apart with data mining, clue gathering, and everything in between. This is something I've been investigating like a maniac for months, so strap in. Starting off, shortly after my last fake GD video, I realized that I should probably keep a closer eye on this website. So I set up a bot that posts to Twitter every time they add a new Scratch game to their lineup. When that video came out in November of 2022, it seems like they were in the middle of a 9 circles phase, adding levels like Downbase, Crimson Clutter, Astronaut 13, just to name a few. In December, they claimed to add Sub-Zero, but it was just this random game. Then they changed it to the Scratch one a few days later. Following that, they would go on to add Scratch versions of Dryout all the way up to Finger Dash, even linking these games right from their homepage. Then they began working their way up the Gauntlet levels, with this masterpiece making its way onto the site on March 16th, 2023. June 30, we saw I Spy. July 18th, we got Limbo, and then changed the scene on the 21st. On August 5th, there was a lot of skill and Among Dash. September added Mario Dash, which was, this. We also got Egg Dash and Spooky Dash, which are popular Scratch projects by Chipmunk with completely original levels and a new engine that runs much better than the other Scratch Geometry Dash. The site also started moving all their Scratch games to Turbo Warp, which is just a faster Scratch. In January of this year, they added Mario 64. It's literally just Mario 64. I'm not even joking. I have no idea how they got away with this. Someone on Twitter even beat it. They also added Lobotomy Dash, which is...
¿Cuánto se me exit showy?
I
Hola.
love the default
Hello,
Unity
Octane.
physics. Turns out this one's hosted on lobotomydash.com, which is yet another fake Geometry Dash one. This is the front page game. It has a corner where you can watch Lobotomy Dash videos, and a long AI-generated description stating that a lobotomy is the process of curing mental illness by causing brain damage. It sounds absurd, but its effectiveness will surprise you. Finally, this April they added Dash Spider. The funniest part about this one is that they literally forgot to add a game. It's just a blank screen, there's no data. To this day, they're still adding more Scratch games and the occasional other slop you'd come to expect. Oh, and how could I forget? Back on the 8th of August, just before the 10-year anniversary of Geometry Dash, there was this random other game they added with the name Geometry Dash Lite. Normally, this isn't a very big deal, but this time, Scratch Geometry Dash vanished from the homepage of the site, and this game took its place. Let's clear up that this is not the Unity version of Geometry Dash I showed earlier. It is made in Unity, but to keep things simple, we'll call this one Geometry Dash Unity and this one Geometry Light, which is also the display name for real GD Lite on Apple devices. Just from looking at the menu, it's clear that this game is in a pretty unfinished state. Most of the menu options are labeled as coming soon, including Newgrounds. The only settings are for volume, and you can't choose a custom icon, despite the fact that they're literally flying by on the menu. The info box in the corner states that this is version 1.0, and the developer is GeometryLight.io, which the More Games button also takes you to. It's yet another one of those fake GD sites, but back when this was released, this was the only game available on it. Once you press play, following a painfully slow transition, you're met with every level up until Jumper. Give one of them a try, and... yeah, so this is the most perfect recreation of geometry that I've ever seen. It looks almost identical to the real thing, and the physics are more accurate than any other clone I've ever played. Even the ship controls surprisingly nicely. My only real nitpick is that, like with most copies, there's zero. Also, the levels are literally one-to-one. Every tiny detail is placed correctly, and I have a suspicion that these were somehow ported over directly from the real game, which is definitely possible because I've done it many times. Now, is this game perfect? No, obviously not. The menu transitions take forever, respawning in practice resets your velocity, the pulsing rods sometimes have hearts, dry out is one word, and overall things just still feel kind of off. But whoever made this game still cooked really hard, and I respect them for it. I just wish it wasn't made solely as a cash grab for scam websites. But this is only version 1.0, so what's this game going to do next? Well, later they released version 0.38. Yes, it went backwards. As far as I can tell, the only difference in this version is that Jumper is now rated Demon, but everything else is the same. Over the next few months, they continued to update the game, even leaving a changelog on GeometryDash.io. Safe to say, this was their game, which unlike Scratch, they had full control over. The most notable additions were Time Machine through Xdev being added, and them dropping 2.2 months before RobDop did. I'm not really sure what fixed practice mode color change means, but by this version, the checkpoints were now blue instead of green. Not to mention, the progress bar setting was now Progress Bar, and auto checkpoints capitalized the letter P. As far as the main menu went, everything was still coming soon. But aside from that, they were still making steady progress. Jumper's difficulty was corrected, Dryout got its space back, the menu fading was cut entirely, the heart rods were gone, sadly, the icon and ship were changed to this, the ball controlled fine, but definitely felt more weird than the others, and the new levels were correct. On the flip side, orb buffering was still absent, and they didn't even try with the mirror portal. So at this point you might be thinking, is this really that impressive? These are pretty easy levels to remake. You can literally fit every object and trigger in this single screenshot. This is just Geometry Dash 1.3, but there's coins, and you can't even pick an icon. And yeah, that's a pretty good point. It's cool, but not mind-blowing. What are they gonna do next? Add Clutterfunk? Oh. Well, I guess it's not that hard to make. Oh! Yeah, so just a few days later, they dropped World and Sub-Zero on the exact same day, November 27th, 2023. To no one's surprise, Geometry World just copies the exact same menu and engine as Geometry Light, and disappointingly, it's only the first 3 levels of the game. You know, the ones that don't have any move triggers, but they did get color channels working, as well as the animated objects, so props to them. 1 month later, just after Christmas, they would go on to add level 4, Years, and yeah, they got stuff moving. It was bound to happen eventually. Geometry Sub-Zero, on the other hand, was a lot more interesting, because when this game came out, there was no menu, pausing, or even practice mode. It just thrusts you right into press start, and there's no way to leave. You're also now rocking the default icon set, except for the ball, which is this for some reason. And we get our first look at the robot. Spoilers, it doesn't control that great. But who am I to talk when they literally made press start? The effects, camera triggers, reversing, and everything in between. Though it is the old version from before the coins were reworked, and unlike Geometry Light, it was definitely made by hand rather than being ripped from the actual game. 1 month later, after the GD World update, they got around to adding a proper menu for the game, but it was very apparent that this was a brand new menu made from the ground up. The buttons are in slightly different places, and the only icons in the background are the default ones, except once again, all. Over in the pause menu, they fixed the progress bar typo, and despite what the button says, checkpoints were green again. For some reason, the level was called Press Start Full, even though it's just the normal version. But you can't really argue with 34 million reviews. Unlike Light and World, there's also a coming soon screen. Oh, and did I mention they added Knock'em? Not really much to say here, it's Knock'em. This level gives us our first look at the wave, and it does not control well. Which is weird, because how do you mess up the wave? We also get to try out the spider, which works, but looks kinda stupid. And on the main menu, it jumps for some reason. By the way, you know how Knock'em used to have really terrible coins? Well, somehow they made them even worse. The first coin is missing its little sparkle, so there's even less indication of it. The second coin's key is missing, so you just get it for free. And the last coin just doesn't exist. Finally, another month later, in late January, they added Power Trip. Once again, it's exactly what you expect, but they removed the smiley face in the wave card. And not only is this message not randomized anymore, but it just turns green on its own. Normally you have to click for that. Also, the second message does it too. To nobody's surprise, you get the last coin for free. They actually patched the spider exploit in this level, which technically puts them one step ahead of RobTop, but it's also iconic to the level at this point. Same goes for the robot. Also in January, they finally got around to releasing Meltdown, but they kind of phoned it in, seeing that it's just one level, and they never added more. They also forgot the key at the start, but luckily they pushed an emergency update one day later that re-adds it, so it would be rude to say that they didn't care. Otherwise, this is just 7 Cs with nothing interesting about it. They went back to using the menu and icons from Geometry Light, so I'm not really sure why Sub-Zero didn't. And there you have it, the complete Geometry Light series. They never got around to next step, and basic features like the icon kit never got either. So now that I've more or less set the scene, this is where the story actually begins. Remember how I said that there was another Scratch Geometry Dash game that wasn't a remix of the one by Griff Patch? This one, Spooky Dash by Chipmunk. It came out on October 27th, 2023, and it showed up on GeometryDash.io 3 days later in time for Halloween. It's actually a really impressive game. It only has one level, Spooky Scary Skeletons, but it's completely original and the gameplay is great. It feels very RobTop styled, but nobody really makes this kind of gameplay anymore, so playing a level like this was a really great experience. On top of that, this game comes with an icon kit, and even a whole level editor which has formed a very passionate community. I'll leave a link to the Scratch project in the description in case you want to try it for yourself. Again, the level is unironically great. And the reason I bring this up is because a little while later, in the middle of December, my bot notified me that they stole the game a second time, but this time under the name Geometry Spooky Dash instead of just Spooky Dash. So then what happened to the first one? Okay, it's a different game, I guess, but what did they change it to? No, they didn't. I refuse to believe it. They made a copy of a Geometry Dash game that never even existed to begin with. Here's a side-by-side comparison, and as you can see, it's basically the same level. This is the only one in the game, and like I said before, it is in fact a really good level. Even the coin placements are really nicely thought out, which is rare to see nowadays. It's also cool to see a 1.0 style levels, Scary Skeletons, or just Spooky in the version they stole, has never existed, in real Geometry Dash at least. It was made by Chipmunk, in Scratch, for Scratch. I searched all over Geometry Dash for this level, but it simply isn't there. Yet, they stole it anyways. These guys have no chill. But it's not just the level they stole. Yes, it's running on the same light physics as in other games, but they redid all of the menus to match the Scratch project, even going as far as to use the same sound effects. They even copied the Choose Your Spook screen, making this the first Geometry Light game where you can choose an icon. And I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that there's no credit anywhere in this game. It's blatant thievery. Aside from the obvious, I think one of the funniest parts of their Spooky Dash copy is that it came out in December. So if this was supposed to be a Halloween game, they completely missed the box. You know what they were just in time for? Yup, they made a Christmas Dash. Just like the last game, it has a Scratch-themed menu and only one level. It's also 1.0 style with festive decorations, and again, it plays pretty nicely. However, unlike last time, the music is just a generic Christmas stock song, and there's no sync at all. But hold on, there's no Christmas Dash on Scratch, so who are they stealing from? Yes, it turns out, and I'm not making this up, they just took a bunch of parts from Spooky Dash and rearranged the order they appear in. Don't get me wrong, this is a different level, but it's made with individual parts of Scary Skeletons. And if you think that's weird, then they sprinkle in some Poltergeist followed by the ship part and Back on Track. They put so much effort into making this level unoriginal, it's almost impressive. The final product is this weird, unholy fusion of levels with zero sync. The first coin is given for free, the second one comes from Spooky Dash, and the third one is back on track. Nothing about this makes sense, and that's exactly why I was so fascinated by it. But the laziness doesn't end there. Remember all the decorations from Spooky Dash, like these fences? All they did was retexture them a little bit. The floating candles are now various things, the grass is now Christmas trees, and the cobwebs are now snow cobwebs. Yeah, they didn't even try. So the icons in the shoes are but more importantly, what the is a sass? Final verdict, this game is a disaster, and yet I kind of love it for that. Whoever made Geometry Light cares so much about